welcome to the porch. We have mugs now. Yes, I am Lindsay Picardo, keynote speaker, virtual presenter for organizations who want to build strong, heart-centered, multi-generational teams. And I truly believe that the modern day leader, those that as we try to grow and evolve, we really have an obligation to grow personally and lead others from a grounded and healthy and healed place. And you'll hear me bring on psychologists, you'll hear us bring on neuroscience experts, storytellers, emotional intelligence researchers, anything that can help us grow personally and professionally as leaders that ultimately does impact the culture of our organization. So this is where I bring on my favorite thought leaders. And today I've got Robb with me. Robb, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming in.
Lindsay, listen, I've been chomping at the bit to talk to you in person, live, because you are just one of those wonderful people. I was on the porch a while back. It's been way too long, although it's only really been a year.
In COVID time, that is 6 years.
Good point. Good point. Couldn't agree with you more.
Robb, you're like a big brother to me. You know, you're an internationally recognized leadership expert. You're an executive coach. You're a keynote speaker. You've been doing this longer than me. You've got your podcast. You're a best-selling author. And I know that you've learned a lot this last year, and you're ready to tell the world really how to move the needle on their teams.
You are so good. And I'll tell you, you're already starting some of the hint, hint, wink, wink, tough questions. And if I remember correctly, Lindsay, the last time you had me on, one of the tougher questions I asked, you said, what's in your bottle? You know, because I was drinking certain things. You're like, with all this energy, what's in that bottle? And I said, honestly, it's just water. So I upped the ante today. You just need to know this. I upped the ante on your beautiful mug.
Oh, I love it.
Yep. And I put seltzer water in here. I did put lime seltzer water. I thought you might want to know that.
He's kicking it up, everybody. Robb, I like it. I like where you're going. You're staying hydrated. Robb, do you feel like a triathlon type person? Do you do triathlons?
I don't, but I work out obsessively. And because I'm just a firm believer, I have all this energy. And if I didn't do something to channel it in a really good, healthy way, I'd probably be a danger to the entire world. So for me, I'm like, why not exercise? So I go out running, I lift weights, I play basketball. However, Lindsay, about 2 months ago, I tore my meniscus in my left knee. Yeah.
Crap.
I was bending down, picking up something in the backyard, like I'd done thousands of times before.
Yeah.
This time would be radically different. I bend down to pick something up. Excruciating pain in my left knee was radiating on it. Oh yeah.
Out of the blue? You just all of a sudden like zing?
Out of the blue. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like I want to pass out. That's how great the pain was. 1 being like, no pain at all. It was about a 9.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And my wife's a PT. She's a physical therapist. So I did all but like I was ready to call for help because I was in so much pain. I did everything just to get myself off the ground, leverage my good leg. I worked myself up. And after about 2 minutes, the pain subsided unless I would try to bend it, which I didn't do a whole lot of that. And then that started my rehab for the last 2 months. Now I'm out jogging again, but it's been a process.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you have to have surgery if you tear your meniscus?
Yeah. So what the experts tell me, my sources, Lindsay, namely my wife, she says that soft muscle tears take approximately 6 weeks if you do the right things.
Oh my gosh.
To actually start mending. And if it doesn't start to mend or heal itself after about 6 weeks, you got to go in to see a doctor to see if you got to get it cleaned up.
Oh gosh. So you're in the middle of that.
Yeah. But I'm doing much better. I'm so thankful. It could have been much worse.
Well, I guess I'll wait to get you your triathlon outfit for another time.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're on the mend though. That's scary. That is so, especially when, you know, we all have ways that we let stress out nowadays. And obviously working out is a very functional, helpful way to do that. And if you lose that, and that's part of your like well-being process, that's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it could be, for me, a friend of mine asked me the other day, and I talk a lot about rhythms. It's important to have rhythms and rhythms. And he asked me, and he, by his own admission, he struggles with just depression, and he has for years. He's really educated me in that whole arena.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about mental health. And he said, Robb, You are so used to going out and running your 3 miles, 3 days a week and everything. Now
Yep.
you're injured. What has that done to your mental health? Because now you can't do what you
Totally.
used to do. And I love the
Totally.
question. It's an honest question. I said, I'm human like we all are. I had a series of moments. There's no doubt about it. Oh no, what's going to be going on?
Yep.
But the quicker that I could actually accept what had happened to me, accept it.
Isn't that
And then,
interesting?
yeah, very, very accept what had happened. And I accepted what had happened by talking to family members, talking to some close friends, me reflecting, me spending some time with God. It's different for everyone, but that's what it looked like for me.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, then I said, okay, now knowing what I know, what are my steps moving forward to healing? And so in that, I started to have a course of action. So even though it looks different than what before the injury,
Yeah.
I still have a course of action. It's a change of rhythm. So
Love
I had
it.
to embrace, change my rhythm by a new course of action. And just the fact I'm able to put one foot in front of the other, there's accomplishment that's involved in that. I feel
Yes.
good. I'm making progress. I'm working towards something. So for
Yes.
me, I was able to maintain good mental health throughout because I had some of those things ingrained within. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I mean, this idea, you don't have to convince me of rhythms, mostly because I'm a drummer and I know how important rhythm is in life. But, this concept that you're talking about of even if your end goal, you're not going to nail the end goal the way that you thought you did, this idea of every day sticking to a rhythm and a pattern. I mean, I think about this honestly every Christmas, every holiday, because we as humans love nostalgia. We love familiarity. Don't you love taking certain ornaments? Your kids probably too. They have certain ornaments that they're so excited to see every single year.
Yeah.
We love ritual. We love pattern. We find comfort in it. And it's the same thing. You don't have to do that just for Christmas. That's an everyday. What can I do to comfort my nervous system to help me know I'm okay? And rhythm is a big part of that.
Yeah,
Predictability.
it is. I mean, you think of it this way. I mean, even morning routine. Each
Yes.
of us, it might look a little different for you, Lindsay. It does me,
Yeah.
it does for Jamie, Deanna, Diana. I mean, you name it. It's going to look a little
Yeah.
different, but there is a place, there's no doubt, for rhythm. I'm like on autopilot. I wake up, I start giving thanks in bed. As soon as my eyeballs open, I'm being grateful for who I am, for who's in my life, the things I have. And I try to be as specific as possible. But just like a robot, then I go down, I grab my cup of coffee in the morning, I continue my meditation, prayer, time of gratitude, and then my kids start coming down. The rest of my
Yeah.
family does. If I didn't have that, I'd be somewhat lost.
Yeah, I can see that.
However, here's what I've also found. As important as rhythms and routines are, what's even more important than them is breaking them very intentionally.
Ooh, juice. Tell me
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Because I think of it this way. If you have a loved one and you love hanging out with them, family member, friend, partner, whatever, spouse, and you just love hanging with them, there's a certain rhythm. You veg out, you get the kids to bed, the animals are settled down, and there's a rhythm even when you get other things settled in your life, just to spend time together. Sometimes that's engaging in good conversations. Sometimes it's not saying anything, just sitting on the couch together on each other's iPads, talking about connection when you're on the iPads and you're sitting next to topic of another conversation, Lindsay.
I love it.
However, I've realized that as important as those rhythms and routines are in relationships, in our personal and professional life, same meetings every week as a team, et cetera, et cetera. Do a little shock, do a little pattern interrupt to infuse something into that mix. So for me, with my wife, I'm once in a while going to just take off a half a day and don't even tell her. And let's say she's off from work too. And I'm like, what are we going to do today?
I love it.
Wow, come on.
Adventure.
Adventure. And so what it does is there's an opportunity, dare I say, like an invitation to infuse a bit more of spontaneity of life, adventure, discovery, enthusiasm, inspiration into what many would refer as normal everyday rhythms. Both are needed, but I'll make a strong argument. As much as regular normal rhythms are needed, making a huge pattern interrupt with them and getting outside the rhythms are just as needed, if not more.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting how much context matters and how much everything really is a delicate balance? You're not saying like be a robot all day, but you're also saying it's so overwhelming for our brains and our minds to be always spontaneous. But if you can create this bedrock of rhythm that you play on, and I think about this as a drummer all the time because, you know, I'm gonna elaborate in on a little music secret. The best drummers are solid, steady, and they're not looking to do they're not looking to do drum fills every 2 seconds and show off.
Yeah.
If you see like a seasoned drummer, somebody who's really good, you'll see that their consistency is what allows the rest of the band to go wherever they need to go, for the singer to go wherever they need to go, for the guitarists to have their space to make their solos. But when that drummer is a showboat, which is like the most annoying thing as a seasoned drummer, you're like, come on, bro, just play a straight up beat. Let's Dane Clark this right now. Let's do this. Like, let's keep it simple. When they don't do that, the rest of the band collapses. So you're really bringing up this concept I think about a lot in music of just the need for both
Yeah.
steadiness, consistency, and space to be spontaneous. But you know, the thing that you said that was so interesting is you got to create that space, right?
You do.
To
You
even
do.
be able to do it, like you have to take time off.
Big time. Well, the thing is, because if you're not intentional, we all have our defaults.
That's
And our
right.
defaults aren't all bad. Sometimes they are,
Yep.
but they're not all bad. I mean, come on. We all have our idiosyncrasies. We all have our dysfunctions. We all have all those different things. But it's not bad. But what we do need is we need a level of intentionality, a depth of intentionality, a focus of intentionality to say, okay, this is what it is, but I need something more. We need
Yeah.
something more, even within team dynamics. And one of the things, Lindsay, I wanted to also highlight as it relates to rhythms and breaking a rhythm
Yeah.
is with team members. If you take a look at your team, now this could be team on the home front. I think what I'd love to talk about is like universal truths and principles that really apply in the home,
Yeah.
in the office, in your neighborhood, in your community, all the way down the line, right?
Yeah.
So if you take a look at any team, like any individual on the team, they're all going to have different rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
And then you gotta appreciate and honor the different rhythms within each team member. And at the same time, find the team rhythm in the midst of
Yes.
that. And then once you find the rhythm within each individual team member and the team as a whole, now you can be intentional, going against the grain and
Yes.
actually breaking the rhythm.
But if you have no rhythm to begin with, you're not breaking anything. You're just creating chaos.
Good point. Good point. Man,
You're-
where my mind goes with this, when you have no rhythm,
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys, I love to dance. So you're talking about, I love to cut some rug. I'm like one of the first guys on the dance floor, like at weddings and stuff. Oh my goodness. Talking about
I love it.
trying to have some rhythm anyway.
I love it. That's okay. This is so interesting because, you know, this idea that you're talking about, you always speak to principles. You speak to these inside out principles. You move the needle. I'm sure you're going to talk about principles in that. And it's not just applicable to each individual, it's applicable to the team. So I'm curious, when you think about like this concept, everybody's talking about employee experience. We got to work on our employee experience. We got to work on, why do you think creating just that isn't enough? There's got to be some principles, some thoughts that you have behind, you know, this idea that the employee experience is not enough. What else do we need
Yeah.
to keep and retain people?
Wonderful question. So I just want to preface it by saying I'm not against the employee experience. I think there's certainly a place for it. I love certain aspects of what many have referred to as the employee experience, right? I love
Yes.
trying to bring the human back into human resources. I
Yeah.
love the aspect of incentive plans, autonomy, flexibility, increased vacation time, because all those different things and more, it says one thing to the team member. It says, we value you. We value you enough to wrap our arms around you with all these wonderful things.
Yep.
However, it's not enough. If we're not careful, if we make it just about the employee experience, it can become more about these exterior things that are still good. There's still a place for them, trying to get inside to the heart and the mind of the team member and worker. So in other words, they can easily become, if we're not careful, motivational tactics, strategies, and stuff like that, that my experience tells me that they're a bit more short-lived. But if we want vibrant and long-term sustainable, healthy organizations, team members, et cetera, What I love to do is, all right, let's find ways on the inside to connect with our team members that in time, it begins to work itself out. So in a sense, instead of outside trying to get in, you're actually starting on the inside and it actually works itself out. That speaks for me. It speaks to vibrancy and sustainability.
Brilliant. So we had a joke. Well, it's not really a joke, but because it's real, but we were talking about last week how like a ping pong table and a kombucha keg, you know, is not going to keep anybody. And those would be like some of those outside ideas that we get hung up on. Like, we got to be cool. We got to look like Urban Outfitters. We got to have exposed brick. Ugh, we got to have all these external things. And yet that's not the sticky glue that holds people. It's like a cool little like pop of interest. And I found too, maybe you've seen this, that if the inside doesn't align with those things, they don't, if you have a ping pong table, but play isn't a part of your culture, it's going to be a paper stand. It's not going to be used.
Great
Is that
point.
kind of what you're talking about with the inside out piece?
Totally. You want to make sure to connect. What comes to mind right away is we're all used to the golden rule. Treat others the way you like to be treated. Sounds good, looks good. But we're talking about what many have referred to as the platinum rule. You don't treat others how you like to be treated. You treat others how they want to be treated. That shift is absolutely huge. And that requires a couple things, Lindsay. That requires a bit of sacrifice. That requires time, energy, actually a commitment to get to know your team members a little bit more personally than you do professionally. Now, I'm not saying that every single time you get together with a team member or a friend or your partner, whatever it is, that it has to turn into like a full-fledged counseling session. However, I'm sure you'd agree, when someone gave you your undivided attention, even recently, undivided attention, where it was just about you and the rest of the world faded away, and perhaps they asked you some personal questions and you knew they were in the trenches with you in that time. How did it make you feel?
Makes all the difference in the world to be seen, heard, understood. And we have this lie in our mind that, oh, like you said, I'm not a licensed therapist. I don't know why I have to do this. And you and I are talking about like 8 minutes. We're talking about 8 minutes of like focused, listening, connection. You don't have to do an annual review every week. You don't have to be getting into, but just spending connection time with people is huge.
Yeah. And I think too, I go back to, and you and I probably talked about this before, but I always go back, whatever's happened in the moment, whatever jumps on my mind, I go with it, Lindsay. So there's a book written in the 1990s. I'm dating myself, but it's called The 5 Love Languages.
Oh, good one. Chapman.
There you go. Okay. So Chapman, he rewrote a book. I forget the person's name. Look, I'm seeing a thumbs up there. I love it. Who doesn't love Chapman?
I mean, come on. That book is helpful.
It's so on point. He rewrote the book a couple years ago with someone, and he calls it the language of appreciation in the workplace. So for me, as we get to know our team members, we get to know those people closest to us within our sphere of influence. What would we say their primary language of appreciation is? Is it the high fives? Is it giving a hug, not in a weird way, but giving a hug when appropriate because they need that? Is it a gift, a handwritten card, or a Porch mug or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Is it words of affirmation? Is it, really validating not just what someone does, but who they are as a unique individual whose heart beats like no one out of 8 billion people on the planet? And I've found that the Chapmans of the world and others that are really doing extraordinary work in that area, now as we look to our team members, we're not looking to serve them. We're not looking to encourage them. We're not looking to inspire them in the way that we think, but actually we're spending time with them, getting to know what makes them tick, what makes them come alive, and serve them based on how they want to be served. And talking about then compelling, because team members can do things because they ought, they should, I get paid to do it, but it's a whole different place to actually do it because they feel loved, encouraged, and inspired in the inside. And I'm a firm believer, and experience to back this up, and statistics to back it up too, that out of that place, they're compelled to act. They're compelled to be productive. Big difference.
That's right. Okay, I want to ask you a really tactical question. I need your advice on this. Sometimes managers and leaders come to me, and part of the problem is they'll say, Lindsay, I am leading 20 people. I cannot do that. And research that I've seen pre-COVID said that the average manager can really lead 7 people and do this quality type of connection work. What's your take on that? Because I think, if you have a full-time 40-hour job and you have your own tasks and then you're leading 7 people, I believe that's the edge, that you are going to hit an edge. What's your advice on that? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a limit. I mean, we all have limits. Statistics do say those things. I've heard even anything over 10, anything over 7.
Yes.
It's just different. But here's the thing. You can build and foster trust very, very quickly with people if they feel valued in the conversation. What we're talking about isn't I think it's something that you said earlier, Lindsay. We're not talking about, a whole lot of time, perhaps. Now, some people may need a little bit more time than others.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a firm believer too, that when you actually connect, genuinely connect, I'm talking about being present with the one before you. Easier said than done. That's a topic of a whole other podcast, a whole other show, Lindsay, of like how we actually go about doing that. But when you're committed to at least a process like that, I found that the connection point, the depth of relationship, the trust that can be built and fostered can happen in a very, very short period of time. I think that the tendency for most people is, we have our hourly meetings. And you're telling me I've got to add to this now? I would have to meet them twice a week, 3 times.
Yes.
But if we begin seeing value in this, of really spending time with people as human beings first, being present with them, figuring out how we can serve them in their personal life just as much, if not more, than their professional life by the questions we ask, listening to their stories, et cetera. I found it doesn't even take that much time. But there's going to be effort along the way. There's going to be sacrifice.
But it's focused. You're right.
It's focused.
Yeah. And if you're
So
focused and you're thinking, this is what I'm just spending these 8 minutes connecting with this person.
Yeah.
That's totally, one of my friends is a therapist for children, and they talk about parents, if you can tune in for 15 minutes a day. Attunement, it's when we are fully present with our kids. You know this, you're a dad of many. 15 minutes a day. And we think like, oh, if I'm going to be that type of parent, that's going to be my life. I don't get to do anything I like anymore. And it's really, we're talking about 15 minutes. You can do it during dinner. You can do it before bed. Tuning in to somebody else. What do you think it takes to tune into somebody else or be present for somebody else?
Well, I think it requires you to connect with them. Again, it gets back to my earlier point, in a way that they want to be connected. I'll give you an example. All right. So I'm going to do it on the home front because I love using some personal illustrations and then bridge it into the professional world and space. Okay. Because we all have personal lives we live, and we take ourselves with us wherever we go, regardless of title, position, task, responsibilities. I could go on. So 2 weeks ago. Now I want to say this. I'm not a big horror movie guy. I'm just not. Some people are, some people aren't. Okay. I prefer the good romantic suspense, maybe some action. I love the relational movies. That's me. My 13-year-old is really into horror movies right now. And he's like, Dad, I haven't really watched any horror movies. And I'm thinking, all right. So he said, can we watch this movie from back in the 80s? I'm like, okay, wow. Getting back to my roots.
Yeah.
But I'm not, Lindsay, I'm not into horror movies. So I kept on saying to him, no, we'll eventually do it. We'll eventually do it. We'll eventually do it. Well, a couple Fridays ago, my wife goes up to bed early. The rest of the kids go to bed early. And now it's my son and I. And he goes, Dad, what do you think he asked, Lindsay? Everyone else is in bed.
He wants to watch a rom-com. Just kidding. He wants a horror flick.
Of course he wants to watch the horror flick.
He wants Halloween. He wants, what does he want? Silence of the Lambs? What are we talking about here?
No, so this was 80s PG-13 Attack of the Killer Clowns.
Oh.
Okay. And it's going around school. It goes around, comes around a little bit. It's now the 80s. There we go. So he wants to watch with me, and everyone else is going to bed. And to his surprise, and trust me, I'm making a point in this, Lindsay. To his surprise, I said, let's do it. But there's 2 conditions.
Okay.
And I surprised him. You should have seen the look on his face. Dad, for real? For real, Dad? I said, oh, yeah. 2 conditions. We're turning off all the lights. He goes, what? The lights are off, right? I said, and we got to get a real good snack. Now, what did that do? My interest is not watching horror movies on a Friday night with the lights off with snacks. But I did it because I know it was a point of connection with my son.
That's right.
We laughed of how corny some of the jokes were when certain things were happening in the movie that I was looking away. No, and we're laughing, we're talking. What did it do in our relationship? I didn't do in that moment what I wanted to do.
That's right.
I did something for someone that was close to me to serve them. Within our teams at work, there's an opportunity as we get to know them, their interest. And oftentimes that's not what I'm interested in. I'd rather do this. I'd rather do that. But that's me, I. I found the most extraordinary leaders are servant leaders, find out what makes the team member come alive.
Yes.
And then go and serve them in that area. And when they do that, it connects both of you in a way that would never be there otherwise. So
brilliant.
Make space.
What did you tell yourself? Now you're a dad, so you flex this muscle literally every day. But I'm curious, what do you tell yourself to be willing to do? Turn off the lights and watch a horror flick. What do you tell yourself? This is going to create connection. This will be worth it in the end. I want to see him happy. What kind of thoughts go through your mind in that moment?
This is my boy. And it's a time to connect with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
This is a time for me as a dad to connect with my son. Mm-hmm. For me, what supersedes interest or lack of interest is a deeper connection with my son in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to be willing to take a look at those closest to us, our team members, our teams in a similar light. Because imagine if each team member is committed to do that.
It changes the game.
I mean, it is a game changer. It's like one of the best things. Now we're fighting over how we can better serve each other.
Yep.
And we're putting others above ourselves. And in the meantime, guess what's happening? The entire team gets exalted.
That's right.
Fascinating.
It's worth it. It's worth it to take those steps and to do, I think that was one of the biggest changes when I went from no kids to 2-step kids, was this idea of connection means I'm moving 100% towards them. Now that's kids, employees are different, obviously teammates are different, but there's this idea of like, how far can I move? If 50% is we meet each other halfway, what if I start to, and not to the point of burning yourself out or over giving, but how do I start really considering somebody else's experience and what they need right now?
Yeah. Well, I think
volumes.
No, it really does, because I think it's human nature. I'll say this. The average person asks this question, whether it's unconscious or conscious or whatever, what's in it for me? And I don't think it's all bad to ask that question. Yeah, it's human nature. I think that it also speaks to what we value and getting in alignment with other people that value similar things.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm not saying that, but we do need to catch ourselves like, okay, so there's good health to some of that, but it can also be very unhealthy if we're not careful. That's why like 2 words I love to use as it relates to like just serving and coming alongside of team members to encourage, to inspire, to connect with and be present with, is be intentional and be consistent. Mm-hmm. Intentional and consistent. And when we do, Lindsay, I'm sure you found this too, when you do, the discipline of doing so actually slowly but surely turns into a lifestyle of it.
Sure.
But it does require some things about it. There's no doubt about it. For any depth of love, for any depth of friendship, relationship, you name it, it does require some self-sacrifice, putting yourself over here. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have self-love and take care of yourself, because we can only give what we got.
That's right.
So we do need to pamper ourselves. We do need to make sure our cup is full, overflowing, find the things that, we enjoy, make sure that we're doing them consistently. But at the same time, in and out of that place, we want to make sure that we're looking after the interest of others. Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Yeah. I love that. I think that I'm excited. Your book's coming out like in a couple weeks, and we need this. We need to be reminded of these principles.
Yeah.
It's how to care for each other.
We do. And I think a lot of times people, when they come across my Inside Out leadership principles, philosophy, content, et cetera, I get a lot of conversations like, Rob, you hit on things that we've always known, but we need to get back to the basics. We need to be reminded of these things so that we can put them into practice again.
That's
And
exactly
so,
it.
and I'll be the first to say, my content, what I'm putting out, it is not like, oh, big aha moment here or anything like that. What it is, I use personal illustrations and some professional illustrations to state points that I believe at the end of the day truly change people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And if we, like, there's even this, Lindsay, I'm a type A, if you can't tell already.
He's pretty
and
low
so-
energy. He's really kind of lazy.
A little bit, you know, but like, I love movement. I love multiplication. I love reproduction. I mean, any word like that that describes, I just love, and I'm a go-getter and I love, but the more that I live life, I really have embraced what slowing down is all about and the importance of it. And so I've even talked to people that, now I'm using an extreme example for a moment. I've even talked to people that have months to live, weeks to live. And the common story I hear most of them say or share with me is it's like their life slows down.
Slow motion.
It's slow motion. Yeah. Because if they know they only have weeks or months to live, the things that used to be important to them prior to coming down with a disease, for instance, or, isn't as important. And they really start to hone in on the people and the things that matter most.
Mm-hmm.
And in that place, they hold that in the depth of their heart and the forefront of their mind very tightly, and very loosely the other things that used to grab a hold of their attention that weren't as meaningful, weren't as significant. And when life slows down, I mean, I wonder how this is with music. That's why I'd love to get your take on this. I'm a basketball player, former professional basketball player, whatever. And what really separates the great athletes, for instance, from the good ones is when the game slows down and they can actually, in their mind, they can actually see 2 plays ahead of what's actually happening.
Yes.
But for like music, is that the case in music? Like, does music, is that kind of this state that you can enter into? You're such in a flow, you're such that, and you're so good at what you do, and you're so present playing the drums, whatever the case may be. Does it seem like the music slows down, or is that not a good analogy?
That's really interesting because, I never really thought about it from this angle, but in music, there's not really a judgment on how fast or slow something goes. It's, does this tempo serve what you're trying to do in the song?
Okay.
So in an interesting way, some slow songs are really hard to get the feel. I mean, we talk about that like jazz music. I am a horrible jazz musician. I do not have that rhythm, and I've tried, and I work on it. I'm telling you, subdivision, triplets, everything I can do, I have worked on it, but it's really more of, does the tempo serve the message? And maybe that's part of it too. It's like in our culture, we put such a, what is the word? We just put such a focus on going fast, accomplishing more, doing more. And not every song sounds good fast.
Yeah.
That's very true.
That's true. No, that's helpful. That's really helpful. So like certain terms I love to use is like, slow is the new fast, I think is really important to know.
Anybody else ready to just go slow? This is the moment, Rob.
This is it. Seize the moment. And I know what many of us may be thinking. I'm there with you, Rob, Lindsay, but it's so stinking hard.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, we get it.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yes.
And I think I was just talking to someone about this. The more that we can, and this is one of the principles I talk about in the book too.
Yes.
The more that we can simplify our lives, the better. In other words, shed of certain things that we shouldn't really be engaged in the first place. And a lot of that just hinges on what are our priorities in this season of our life.
Brilliant.
Like, I'm a firm believer in like, what are your seasonal priorities? Like, who are the people, what are the things that matter most right now in this season of your life, and be as specific as you possibly can be. I think, Lindsay, once you identify those things, we actually just naturally start putting boundary markers around those things. And then when people come tugging on you, and they will, life happens, People are good. Matter of fact, the more that you could grow and develop in leadership, only more people are going to come tugging, not less. So it's your management of yourself. In other words, the more that you say no to things you ought not engage in, you get to say yes to the people and things that matter most.
That's right.
And so I find my life at age 46, I find that I have never been more focused than what I am right now. I've never had more demand on my calendar, but been in better management of it in my entire life, because I'm committed to something that I think is so big. It's being more in vertical of relationship as opposed to horizontal. A commitment to have greater depth with just the few in my life, few on my team, the few in my neighborhood. I mean, you could just, the ripple effect happens, as opposed to, well, I just want to get out there, and the more the merrier. And yes, yes, yes to everything and everyone. And I just find I get stretched way too thin. So when you make that commitment to yourself and begin really coming up with your priorities, putting boundaries around those, and letting people know when you do say no, the reason why you're saying no, not only it helps you guard and protect your boundaries, it also helps disciple and mentor them to do the same thing in their life.
Isn't that interesting that you can start setting a boundary can actually free up other people to do the same?
It's truly, it speaks volumes. I mean, just the fact you saying no, now you don't owe it to everyone to give them the reason why.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
Sometimes you could just say, no, thank you so much for asking. I'm going to have to say no right now. But for others, using that discernment, for others, maybe you feel like, no, this person, I feel like I do need to tell them why. Because for my own reasons, like I think something's deeper happening in my own life, my own heart and mind, but at the same time, it can also help teach, not just through demonstration, but also words, what other people might need to take a closer look at in their own lives.
That's great. And that's so true. It's interesting that leadership, when we're young and we're little, we think of leadership as like kids that say yes to everything, that take on responsibility. And then we get to this point in our life where it's like, no, just say yes to a few things, do those things well. This book, you've probably read the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown, or
I have not. I've heard about it. I've yet to read it. Come on.
We'll send you a copy. I always have several up here.
Yeah, love it.
But that idea of like doing a few things really well so that Sam, remind me, we're going to send this to Rob. We'll shoot it to him later. But that idea of doing a few things well and not burning out is huge.
Yeah.
Well, when you were writing, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, when you do that, it's tough for people to take that step. But when you do, through courage, through the help of other people, sometimes we underestimate the power of the human will. Let's be real. I think that when we say, I will do something or I won't, it doesn't solve everything, because there's some things it just doesn't solve. However, I think we underestimate it. And sometimes we need the help of a faithful friend, a coach, to help us on that journey as well. But when we make a commitment to do so, it could be one of them. In that moment, taking that step of shedding things to living more of a simple life, saying yes to the people and things that matter most, everything we've been talking about, Lindsay, it can be one of the most difficult, challenging steps of our entire life. However, when we actually take the step, it becomes one of the most liberating things we ever could do.
So true. I've seen it. You're exactly right. I've seen it firsthand. Being able to say no when this isn't the right fit, this isn't the right time in my life, whatever it is. But you made a good point earlier. It's like, we've got to get clear on what we value and what matters most to us to really be able to say no with conviction. Because when you're able to verbalize and speak clearly to what matters to you, no becomes a lot easier, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does. And I find that too, people come tugging on us as leaders.
Yeah.
In a few different ways. Some people, they're asking for a favor. They're asking for a favor.
Sure.
Some people, it's an obligation. You feel obligated. Like deep down inside, you might not tell this or express it. Oh man, I guess I better do it. I don't know. And then third, there's a genuine opportunity.
Yes.
And to really sift through it, like, is this a favor? Is this really an obligation? Or could this potentially be a tremendous opportunity? again, the priorities help us sift through whether or not we should say yes. But I just want to at least put people come tugging on us in those three primary areas. That's what at least I find. So
Yes. Now, what do you think about, I know we don't have a ton of time, so if you have a question for Rob, put it in the chat. We've got a few minutes left. I had a list of questions. I got through 2 of them, but that's okay. We have so many good things to talk about. I want to know, and I really hope we're post-COVID, Rob. I'm just going to speak it.
come
I'm
on.
going to speak it into existence. You know, when we think about, you and I are both hearing this from our friends in HR, left and right. How do I serve my team now? How do I help the people that I work with not just move through this time, but thrive, knowing that a lot of people are a little crispy around the edges. It's not like we all like, I've got a reservoir. You said one thing that was really interesting. You said, pamper yourself specifically, which I thought was a very interesting way to say that. Because you're not saying like, be nice to yourself. Like pampering alludes to like luxury, over the top, fill that cup, let it overflow. I'm curious, how do we serve our team members right now in post-COVID?
I know. I hear you. I'm optimistic like you. Put out the positive vibes.
Yep.
I think everyone can join us as they're listening, tuning in for sure. The positive vibes go out where this is drawing to an end. I love a framework that I often use. I use it in the book, Move the Needle. It's 3 P's: purpose, people, and process.
Brilliant.
Okay. So first, and I'll keep this tight, but so first, purpose. If we want each individual team member and the team collectively to have purpose, I mean, who doesn't want that? We want purpose-driven team. Come on.
Obviously.
Yeah, that gives way to passion and enthusiasm. I mean, everyone loving to be around people, culture, celebration, so much is built around that. It starts with you and it starts with me as the leader. We have got to discover or rediscover our personal purpose.
Yes.
If we just jump into the professional world and help illuminate the professional purpose and what we're after as a team, that's good. It's noble. It's admirable. I get it. But what's going to create vibrancy, long-term sustainability, and longevity is if each leader can look deep within. What's my purpose again? And be willing to go on a self-discovery journey, only to find the seeds of greatness deep on the inside.
Yes.
And 5 quick ways we can do that, right? One is, what are your personal core values? What are your top strengths? What are your greatest passion areas? What are the core life milestones? The things that have shaped you to become the person you are today? And then the 5th and final, what is the gift you've been given? So when you're no longer on this earth, it's a legacy you leave behind to positively affect future generations. If we are on point with our personal purpose, we can begin helping others in the area of personal development that leads into professional development.
Yes.
So purpose is huge. Everything begins with purpose. Second is people. Large portion of our conversation today, Lindsay's been talking about how we can better serve, people, how we can better connect, be more present with people, not doing or serving them in the way we want to be served. We think they want to be served, but actually asking them, getting to know them so that we can be quick to go on their turf and listen and engage. So a depth of trust and fostering that trust can begin to come about. And then lastly, it's process. I think we'd all agree process is important. That's what kind of builds this sustainability.
Oh my gosh, the rhythm. You got to have the rhythm.
We're coming full circle, Lindsay.
Boom.
Full circle in rhythm. And one thing I want to highlight about the process piece is efficiency is one thing. Okay, processes can help, rhythms can help us be, like we talked about earlier, active and stay active. But good activity doesn't always translate into the best activity. So I want everyone to hear that for a moment. Because we're busy doesn't mean it's the best activity we're engaged in. So I love to talk about effectiveness is the key to true efficiency. That might be a topic of another conversation, but I'm finding the more effective you can be with yourself, with your people. So the purpose, and then people aspect. Now you are being effective and you're beginning to put processes in place that are keeping purpose and people in mind, because at the end of the day, it's human beings that facilitate the process.
Yes. That's it. Now, is that in Move the Needle?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. The 3 Ps. I break up the book in 3 parts. First part is the purpose aspect, and I have a few chapters on that. And then it feeds right into the people aspect. And then I kind of land the plane in the book with the third and final part, which has everything to do with processes. So, yeah.
So if somebody gets this book and they walk through it as a leader, you're really setting them up to not just think differently, but act differently and treat other people differently too.
Totally. And one of the things I love to do, we could talk about concepts all day long. We could talk about philosophy. We could talk about principles, but unless it's anchored, and you do this so well, Lindsay. So I'm kind of preaching the choir with you, but for our listeners' benefit, is when we can get very practical as it relates to reflection questions. And I have reflection questions, about 3 or 4 at the end of every chapter.
Brilliant.
To where now it's a time for you to get alone. It's a time for you to put on some quiet music in the background, whatever that means for you, right? Grab your drink, grab your favorite Porch mug, and and get alone. And now become even that much more self-aware, aware of your social surroundings with team, et cetera. And that's where a lot of the magic actually happens. So I try to take the philosophy, the principles, break it in bite-sized pieces, but get highly experiential with them. So
I think that's so important, because you're right. There are a lot of books that come out that have great ideas, but we really don't know, like, well, how am I going to do this tomorrow? Because we know, like, adult learning theory, you can learn a new concept, but you need to act on it and pull it into your actual behavior to make it stick. And you get that.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I try because I have found, I mean, here's one of the nice things. When you get to write books, you write how you kind of like to read. At the same time, I'm trying to really keep the audience, when I'm reaching leaders, HR leaders and directors and managers, I really try to do my best with keeping them in mind. And so at the end of the day, I think that's the best way to get across to certain things, people, connect at the end.
Because once somebody, have you ever noticed this? And I notice this when I read a book. At some point in the chapter, you might be like, yeah, I got it. Like, I'm totally aligned with you. I don't need any more stories. What do I do?
Yeah. And
you, with this executive coaching mindset, made sure to put those action pieces in, which I have so much respect for. And I think it's just critical to the success of somebody taking your book and changing their life.
Oh, well, I
love that.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
I love that. So tell me, what are you most excited about? Is your book is releasing at the end of November?
Yep.
And
November
you've got
30th.
Awesome, November 30th. So you're going to eat Thanksgiving, do your thing, come back and read Robb's book in the month of December to get you set up for 2022. That's what it's here for. And you've got some awesome interviews coming up. Tell us a little bit about, you're on a podcast tour, your book's coming out. Yeah. Where else could people see you this week to talk more about this, or this month to talk more about this?
I got to say this. I am so honored that you would have me on as the first within my interview tour. Honestly, Lindsay, the moment I met you and you and I connected through one of the conferences we both spoke at over a year ago now, and hit it off immediately. And I'll tell you, so I just want to say thank you. I thank you for the extraordinary work that you're doing with leaders all over the place. I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by your work. Everything I talked about in this time together, you're modeling it. You live it, and you are so influential. It together. I love it.
Yes.
So thank you for the work that you're doing and having me on. I'm going to be meeting, a variety of different places. Cy Wakeman. I don't know if you guys know Cy Wakeman.
I love Cy. Yes.
Yep. I'll be on the No Ego podcast. I think it's even within a couple weeks. The HR Leaders podcast as well with Chris Rainey is a good podcast as well, and a number of others. But I'm just thrilled. I feel like I'm 5 years old, honestly. I feel like as I'm writing my 3rd book and it's being released in the next few weeks, and I'm meeting with you and I'm meeting with other people, I feel like I'm just starting to scratch the surface. I'm learning far more than hopefully people are learning from me. Like, I'm just absorbing so much.
That's what I love about you. Yes.
And I wouldn't want it any other way. I'm one of these people that I would not want to be doing anything else than what I'm doing at my age in this season of my life than serving leaders all around the world through inside out leadership principles. I wouldn't, it's been phenomenal.
I love that. I love that for you. I love that for the people that you serve. When we, get to talk to people and connect with people who are doing exactly what they want to do in this season, we're also telling others it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. Dream big.
Yeah.
And
Dream
you've
big.
done,
Yeah, I was going to say, dream big. And, but even dreaming, Lindsay, like, man, you always get me going. You do, because I love how you think. In dreaming, what I've found to anchor us, and this might be something for me just to leave behind to kind of is
a final thought. I love it.
Yeah, almost like a final thought or something. So thanks for dealing with me. I don't know.
It's awesome.
As important as it is to dream, and I help people do that. You help people do that, Lindsay. It's important.
We have to, we must.
Whether it's 12 months out, 5 years out, 10 years out, where do you want to be? Engage your senses in that future state. And I believe that things will slowly but surely start to manifest themselves in the natural, in the physical, with the things on your heart. There's no doubt about it. One of the things that I think is a really important aspect of the vision process that's not talked about a whole lot is, and I think we do come full circle in conversation with connection and with this statement. The more that you are present with the one person in front of you, I find that now you're really into that conversation. You're listening intently. You're giving and you're also receiving. That your vision becomes more clear with every person you meet with. And before long, the vision is before you, illuminated with colors, with an enormity, with a gravitas that would never be there otherwise if you just wanted about it with your own speed, trying to reach the masses, thinking big. So my encouragement to everyone, discipline yourself to be present with yourself, with those around you, and watch and see what begins to happen. Watch and see.
That's brilliant. That's perfect. I'm going to want that soundbite later. I'm like, thank you. Lillian should have grabbed that.
You're awesome.
I find this to be true, and I know this from knowing you too, is that when you're able to be present, the magic of being a human and having inner wisdom and having our emotional attunement that we can create with each other, all of that is able to come to the surface. But you're right, the magic is in being fully present. And we never do it alone, do we? We always have other people on the path with us, cheering us on, directing us, guiding us. I love that idea that you said about, pull the right people on your team. Don't try to do this alone. Don't try to make a dream happen as you sit in your bed by yourself all alone. And you're just like, I'm going to think of a dream randomly. Be out talking to people. I think about every step, every pivotal moment in my life. You're talking about those moments that we all can reflect on. They're marked by certain people speaking the right thing at the right time.
True.
We really do need each other. I'm so lucky to know you, Rob. I know we're lucky to have you. I can't wait for all the people that couldn't come to get this recording. We had our friends on Instagram today hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out with us and learning more from Rob. Rob, where can we get a hold of you? Where can we get this book? I know it's going to be on Amazon. Tell us a little bit about where we can get it in the next couple of weeks. And Sam, make sure to put it in the chat.
No, that's great. Yeah, 2 primary places to go. One is robholman.com. And that's Rob with 2 B's. And I didn't add an extra B next to my name when I was rebellious in my teenage years. I've really had 2 B's next to my name, Lindsay. Anyway, Rob Holman. Rob, trust me, people had fun with that growing up. I'll tell you that. So I would say, robholman.com, centralized place for all my content, a lot of what I have going on. As it relates to specifically the book, movethenedlebook.com. And actually, people that go there can download a free copy of my preview chapter.
Yeah.
So chapter 1 of the book. So I
saw that. Yep. That's brilliant. Sam put that in the chat. Go to movethenedle.com, grab that first chapter. I'm so excited for everyone to read your book, to hear these principles, to understand deeper how we can really be aware of ourselves first to help other people grow and create presence in our own life You're an incredible human, Rob. Thank you for your time and your energy today with us.
Now, what's really in this mug? I'm being honest. It's just the seltzer.
It's just lime water, people.
Hey, Lindsay, thanks again. You are a tremendous gift to me and to so many other people all around the world. So thanks for being you.
Thank you, Rob. We'll talk soon. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good. We'll see you.
Bye. Bye, friends.